The letter was waiting for me when I got home. It was a quiet evening in late September, the kind where the sun hangs low and everything is bathed in a coppery light, like the world's holding its breath before autumn fully takes over. My boots crunched against the gravel of my driveway as I walked from the truck to the front gate, a black-painted farm-style gate I'd locked that morning. And there it was. A crisp white envelope, tucked under the latch. No postage, no address. Just a neat, bold header. Oak Ridge Meadows Homeowners Association. I didn't even have to open it to know what it was. The HOA had been after me for 2 years now, hounding me with letters, visits, and threats about my gate. They called it non-compliant with the spirit of community openness. What they meant was that they didn't like that my property wasn't under their control. I tore the envelope open, standing right there under the leaning shadow of my oak trees. The paper inside was smooth and heavy, printed with smug confidence. Dear Mr. Sawyer, your locked front gate continues to obstruct community access and is not in the spirit of neighborhood openness and unity. You are hereby directed to remove or leave unlocked the gate within 14 days. Failure to comply will result in fines of $500 per month and further legal action. I read it twice, then a third time, each pass slower than the last. The wind stirred, sending dry leaves scuttling down the lane behind me. Somewhere deep in the trees, a crow called out, sharp and solitary. Fines. Legal action. From an HOA I never even signed up for. I folded the letter carefully, deliberately, and slid it back into the envelope. Then I just stood there, staring down Oak Ridge Lane, the narrow ribbon of asphalt that cut through the woods, snaking past my house and on toward the cluster of homes deeper in. It still looked almost exactly like it had when my grandfather built it in the 50s, a little wider now, a little smoother after a couple of resurfacing jobs over the years, but the bones were the same. My grandfather had paid for every foot of gravel that went into it, every hour of labor. The easement had his name on it. When he died, it became mine. Most people didn't know that. Or maybe they just forgot. To them, Oak Ridge Lane was just the road they lived on. Their road. But it wasn't theirs. It was mine. I turned back to the gate and laid a hand on the cool steel bar. The padlock glinted in the last of the sunlight. It was a plain lock, nothing fancy, but it was solid, heavy, the kind that would take bolt cutters to break. I'd installed the gate 3 years ago after coming home to find a delivery truck parked halfway up my driveway, the driver using it as a turnaround point. Then came the teenagers sneaking in to party in the woods. Then the strangers who just wanted to see the old house. The gate wasn't just a piece of metal. It was a line. A clear, undeniable boundary. And Janice Whitmore hated that boundary. I could picture her face as I stood there, the tidy blonde hair, the oversized sunglasses that hid half her expression, the clipboard she carried everywhere like it was a badge. She was the HOA president, self-appointed neighborhood sheriff, and she'd been to my door 3 times this past summer telling me how my gate was an eyesore and a liability. She said it like she was doing me a favor. I'd been polite at first. Then firm. Then cold. Now, standing there with her latest threat in my hand, something in me went very still. It wasn't anger, not yet. It was quieter than that, heavier. Like the air just before a thunderstorm. I walked up the drive, the gravel crunching underfoot, and sat down on the porch steps. From there, I could see the whole stretch of Oak Ridge Lane through the trees. A car passed by in the distance, headlights briefly flashing between the branches. One of the neighbors heading home. I watched it disappear around the bend, and that's when it really hit me. Every single person on this road drove across my land every day. Every morning, every evening, their tires rolled across the asphalt that still legally belonged to me. It wasn't county maintained, wasn't part of any city jurisdiction. The county records still listed it under the Sawyer Land Trust, my grandfather's creation. Which meant I could do just about anything I wanted with it. I leaned back against the step, the boards warm from the fading sun, and let out a slow breath. The HOA wanted me to unlock my gate? Maybe it was time I reminded them whose road they were using. Maybe it was time they learned what it meant to push someone too far. I stayed out there until the light faded, until the woods were nothing but shadow and the crickets started their night song. By then, I'd made up my mind. Tomorrow, I'd drive into town. I'd go to the county office, pull every record on Oak Ridge Lane, and make sure the paperwork said exactly what I thought it did. And if it did? I smiled to myself, small and cold. Then it was time to stop playing defense. If Janice wanted a fight over a gate, she was going to get one. But she wasn't going to like how it ended. The county building was quiet when I walked in the next morning, the kind of quiet that always feels out of place in government offices. The floors smelled faintly of lemon cleaner, and fluorescent lights hummed overhead. At the records desk, Evelyn Pratt sat behind a thick pane of glass, her glasses halfway down her nose as she typed on a beige keyboard that looked older than both of us. She looked up when I stepped to the counter. "Morning. What can I help you with?" "I need the file on Oak Ridge Lane," I said. "Ownership, easements, the whole thing." She frowned, typing a few keys. "You live out there?" I nodded. "Sawyer Place." That made her pause, then smile faintly, as if she just connected a name from some old story. "Oh. The old logging road. Give me a second." She disappeared into the back room and came out with a manila folder thick enough to choke a filing cabinet. She set it on the counter and slid it toward me. "Still listed under Sawyer Land Trust," she said, tapping a yellowing page with a manicured nail. "Not county maintained. No HOA jurisdiction listed. Just private easements for ingress and egress to the other parcels." I flipped through the pages slowly. Easements meant the neighbors had the right to drive across it, but nothing about me being required to maintain it, or leave it ungated, or give them anything beyond basic access. "You said it's still under the trust?" I asked. Evelyn said, typing something into her terminal. "Been sitting that way for decades." "Why?" "Because I'm dissolving the trust," I said. "And I want the road deeded directly to me." Her eyebrows went up. "You want to personally own Oak Ridge Lane?" "Yes." She hesitated, as if weighing whether to say what she was thinking. "That road is basically the neighborhood's lifeline, you know." "You sure you want that responsibility?" I smiled, slow and deliberate. I've never been more sure of anything. It took about a week and a couple of signatures before it was done. The trust was dissolved. Oak Ridge Lane now belonged to me, Thomas Sawyer, sole proprietor. And that's when I called Derek Miles. Derek had been one of my closest friends back in high school. We'd been the kind of kids who rebuilt engines for fun, raced junk cars down back roads, and spent summers sweating on construction crews to save up gas money. Now he owned a small but thriving construction company. "2 gates," he repeated when I explained what I wanted. "Not one, not a replacement for the one you've already got, 2? "That's right," I said. "One at the entrance from the main road, one just past my driveway. With security cameras, keypads, and steel posts sunk deep enough that even a truck won't ram through them." Derek let out a low whistle. "You're not messing around. You expecting trouble?" "I'm already in it," I said. "This is me getting ahead." Derek chuckled, but there was respect in it. "All right, man. I'll have a crew out there Monday." And Monday morning, like clockwork, his trucks rumbled down Oak Ridge Lane, loaded with posthole loggers and concrete bags. The first neighbor to notice was Nancy Briggs, who lived 2 houses down. I saw her come out onto her porch, coffee mug in hand, staring in open shock as Derek's men started drilling. Then came Mike and Laura Hendricks, walking their dogs. They stopped on the side of the road, watching as a flatbed unloaded 2 massive black steel gates. Within an hour, I saw a familiar white SUV coming down the lane like a storm front. Janice. She parked halfway on the grass and got out, sunglasses already perched on her face, clipboard clutched under her arm like a sword. "What is going on here?" she demanded, striding toward me where I stood by the worksite. "Morning, Janice," I said mildly. "Don't morning Janice me," she snapped, pointing her clipboard at the men digging post holes. "You can't put a gate across Oak Ridge Lane. This is community property." "No, it's not," I said, pulling a folded document from my jacket pocket and holding it out. As of last week, Oak Ridge Lane is privately owned. By me. She snatched the paper, scanning it quickly. I could almost hear the gears grinding in her head as she read the notarized transfer of ownership. This doesn't change the fact that you can't obstruct access, she said, jabbing the paper back at me. Our HOA rules. I'm not in your HOA, I said flatly, stepping closer. I never signed your bylaws, never paid your dues. Your rules don't apply to me. Janice's face flushed. You're putting the whole community at risk. What about emergency vehicles? Deliveries? Guests? They'll have access, I said. There'll be a keypad, keycards for residents. But this is my road, Janice. My responsibility. And I'm tired of being told what I can and can't do on my own property. For a second, we just stood there, staring each other down. Derek's crew worked in silence, as if sensing that something far more important than a gate installation was happening here. This isn't over, Janice hissed finally. You're provoking legal action. I shrugged. Then sue me. But until you win in court, the gates stay. She spun on her heel and stalked back to her SUV, tires spitting gravel as she roared away. That night, I found another letter taped to my gate. This action constitutes obstruction of community access. You are hereby ordered to cease construction and remove any gate installations immediately or face legal proceedings. This time, I didn't just laugh. I sat down at my kitchen table, turned on the lamp, and wrote a reply by hand. Dear HOA Board. Oak Ridge Lane is private property, legally owned by me as of last week. I have no contractual obligation to your HOA. Your residents have easement rights, but that does not prevent me from securing my property. The gates stay. Regards, Thomas Sawyer. 2 days later, the gates were installed. Keypads mounted. Cameras wired. Neighbors drove slower now, heads turning as they passed, some blaring openly. I didn't blame them, it was a dramatic change. But I didn't flinch either. Then I took the final step, keycard access. I mailed each household an application form, polite, professional, but with a very clear clause stating that by signing, they acknowledged they were driving on private property and agreed to abide by the new security protocol. Most of them signed. A few didn't. Those who didn't found themselves parking out by the main road and walking half a mile to their homes. One by one, even the stubborn ones caved. But the mood on Oak Ridge Lane was electric, angry stares, muttered conversations, neighbors gathering in tight little knots at the mailboxes. And I knew it was only a matter of time before Janice came back. When she did, I was ready. The first thing I noticed that morning was the silence. Oak Ridge Lane had been noisy for weeks, cars slowing to gawk at the new gates, neighbors talking in tense clusters, the sound of construction trucks and power tools. But that morning, the air felt still, like the forest was holding its breath. I stepped out onto my porch, coffee steaming in my hand, and looked down the lane. The sun was just cresting over the pines, gilding the road in gold. The gate at the main entrance gleamed in the light, a solid black silhouette across the road. And there, parked just inside it, was a line of SUVs. They were waiting for me. I could feel it in my chest even before I started walking. The HOA had come in force. By the time I reached the gate, I saw them clearly, 6 cars lined up, neighbors standing in a semicircle. At the center, like a general before a battle line, was Janice Whitmore, clipboard in one hand, sunglasses perched high. Her lips were pressed thin, but she wasn't smiling. Mr. Sawyer, she said, her voice carrying down the road. We need to talk. I stopped just short of the gate, leaning casually against the steel post. Then talk. Janice raised the clipboard like a weapon. The HOA board has voted to take legal action. We have hired an attorney and filed an injunction. You will remove these gates immediately, or you will face court-ordered damages. I didn't flinch. Go ahead. Her sunglasses caught the sunlight, hiding her eyes. You think this is a game? You're holding the entire neighborhood hostage. Elderly residents can't get visitors easily. Deliveries are delayed. Emergency access is being compromised. Stop. My voice cut through the morning air, sharper than I intended. The neighbors went quiet. Even the birds in the trees seemed to pause. I stepped forward until I was standing just behind the gate, close enough to grip the cold steel. You've been on my porch 3 summers in a row telling me what I can and can't do with my own property, I said, keeping my voice low and even. You told me my gate was an eyesore. You said I had to leave it unlocked for the good of the community. And now you're upset that I took steps to protect what's mine. Janice opened her mouth, but I kept going. I didn't build this road to make your life difficult. My grandfather paid for every inch of it so people could have homes out here. But that doesn't mean I owe you control over my land. You wanted me to unlock my gate. You wanted to dictate how I live. Well, congratulations, now you have to go through 2 gates just to get home. There was a murmur from the gathered neighbors. A few exchanged glances. You think you've won something? Janice said, her voice sharp now. This is just petty revenge. No, I said simply. This is a reminder. Respect goes both ways. You could have left me alone. You could have minded your own business. But you didn't. The silence stretched out. Somewhere behind Janice, one of the neighbors, Mark Jensen, the quiet one who'd always kept to himself, stepped forward. He's right, Mark said. His voice was calm, measured, but it carried. We didn't have a problem until the HOA started going after him. I don't like the gates either, but I get it. If someone tried to tell me what to do with my property, I'd be mad too. Janice turned on him like he'd betrayed her personally. Mark, this is about safety. No, Mark said, cutting her off. This was about control. And you lost. That broke something. The tension that had been building for months finally cracked. Several neighbors started talking at once, some arguing with Janice, others muttering that they were tired of the fight, tired of the drama. I watched as the HOA president's grip on her clipboard tightened until her knuckles turned white. She realized she was losing them. This isn't over, she said finally, her voice low and cold. For you, maybe, I said. But I think for everyone else? It is. And I turned, walked back up the lane, and left them standing there. The lawsuit never materialized. Maybe their lawyer told them they didn't have a case, maybe they just didn't have the money to keep pushing. Either way, the HOA meetings got quieter. The angry letters stopped coming. 2 weeks later, I heard from Mark that Janice had resigned as HOA president. She's putting the house on the market, he told me over coffee one morning. Moving to Florida. Says she's done dealing with difficult neighbors. I didn't say anything for a long time. Just stared into my coffee, letting the steam curl into the cold morning air. Then, slowly, I smiled. Winter came to Oak Ridge Lane like a fresh coat of paint. The pines were dusted with frost, the air sharp and clean. And for the first time in a long time, it was quiet. No one bothered me. No one left notes. No one knocked on my door to tell me how to live. Neighbors waved when they passed through the gate now, some grudgingly, some even smiling. A few thanked me, said the gates made them feel safer, kept strangers from cutting through the lane. I still kept my own personal gate locked. I still kept the cameras running. And every time I swiped my keycard and heard the smooth whir of the steel gate sliding open, I felt something I hadn't felt in years, peace. It wasn't about winning. It wasn't about revenge. It was about finally being left alone. One crisp morning, as the sun broke through the treeline, I stood by the gate at the road's entrance and watched it swing shut behind me. The sound echoed through the still forest, solid, final, like the closing of a chapter. The HOA had ordered me to unlock my gate. Instead, I had closed the road forever. And somehow, in doing so, I had opened something else, a space where I could breathe, where I could drink my coffee on the porch and listen to the woods and know that, for once, no one was coming to tell me what to do. The road was mine. And so was my peace.